Hey, Darren,
We're
welcome to our
live.
very, we're live, and this is my very first live stream, I'll have you say. So, welcome and congratulations on being my very first guest on PowerApps Academy. In fact, more than a
Thank
guest,
you.
So we'll get into the nuts and bolts of that. But welcome everyone to our very first live stream here at PowerApps Academy. My name's Barry. I'm the founder of PowerApps Academy. In fact, this is just a group I set up as a hobby, a few years ago, a couple of years ago, and it's just grown naturally as my journey in PowerApps has grown. So the group has grown, and we really want to start providing value to you guys through this group, and that's why we've decided to put more focus on this group and building our community, and hopefully giving you guys more value. And firstly, just thanks for being a part of our group. Really great to have you on board. And it's fantastic that the group has grown so naturally. And I think it just is testament to the technology that is PowerApps, and how interest in that technology has grown, and the value that you get out of it from it being there bundled mostly within the Microsoft licenses, which is fantastic to start using it. Obviously, there's some gotchas along the way in terms of licensing and all that sort of stuff, which we can get to in a later podcast. But anyway, today's live stream is really focused on Darren, because he has joined our PowerApps Academy group as an admin and technical expert. So our main purpose here is to talk to Darren and just understand his journey in PowerApps and ask him a few introductory questions. And I suppose our aim is to have more frequent streaming events where we can get you guys more involved, because really this is for you guys, and to answer any questions you have and maybe point you in the right direction, or even just talk to you about our journeys and how we got to where we are, and help you on your journey to get to where you want to be. Because it can be quite of a challenge, and it can be quite daunting, especially when you start. I remember starting PowerApps and just going, oh my God, where do I start? It just looks too confusing. And
Absolutely.
so yeah, great. And so just before we dive in there, I just wanted to maybe just formulate our mission statement here for PowerApps Academy, because it's good to have a mission, what the purpose of the group is. And I think the points that I can think of so far that we really want to work towards is encouraging and inspiring our members, because it's easy to lose focus, maybe, get caught up with other things. One of the key things that I've learned along the way is just to remain focused, because if even if you do a little bit every week, don't leave it for long periods, because then you've got to go back and learn everything. So we'll be here to help inspire you and encourage you. Provide information and tutorials. You'll if you're not already a member of Darren's group, he does some fantastic tutorials, and that's how I met Darren, through some of his posts, and that's why we got chatting. So certainly sign up to his YouTube group, and provide value in terms of templates that I know we provide on powerappify.com, which is a website I run, and we can talk a bit about what we do over there later. And also just keeping you up to date with news. So it's good to have a news source, right? So you can keep up to date with any changes coming up around licensing or new functionality and that kind of good stuff. So, Darren, are you ready?
I'm ready.
You ready?
Let's do it.
Ready for good? Great. Okay, so before we hop in, if you guys have any questions, or I know this is our first live stream, so we might not have too many questions, but obviously we want you guys to interact. So please do ask us any questions as we go along. So Darren, great to have you on board. Great to have you an admin of our group and a technical expert. I know you are a lot more technical than me, so great to have you on board.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No worries. So it'd be great to introduce yourself to the audience, for us to know a little bit about you, where you're from, what you enjoy doing outside of PowerApps, just as an introduction.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been in the IT industry since 1999. So I was learning COBOL at a community college in 1999 when there was the whole Y2K. They were trying to hire as many COBOL programmers as possible back then. And I'd have to tell you, I hated COBOL. I took a COBOL class. I was in the lab, and hitting all these function keys and stuff. And there's somebody beside me doing some Visual Basic work. I'm like, oh, it looks a lot more fun. What is that? And so I signed up for a Visual Basic class, and there was a Visual Basic instructor named Kurt that sort of took me under his wing, got me my first job, and I really loved the application development. Back then, VB6 was this rapid application development tool. And of course, then .NET came out in 2001, and I started learning .NET, and I've learned a lot of stuff in the past 20, 23 years. But when I came across PowerApps, it really renewed a passion I had back at the very beginning when I got into VB6. That was, I could crank out apps really quickly, and I could, I was much more agile. And as people requesting things, I could get things back to them like, hey, what do you think of this? I could create this screen that does this for you. I could create this app that does this. And I felt like a wizard. Like I could just whip things out really quick. And so on my LinkedIn, I put myself down as a PowerApps wizard, because that's how I felt. And I've actually got a job that way. Actually,
Wow.
had a recruiter. They were looking for a PowerApps person, and they came across my LinkedIn like, oh, well, we want the PowerApps wizard. So,
Brilliant.
yeah, just a little tip there. If you're looking for a PowerApps job, just don't put something boring like PowerApps developer. Put PowerApps sorcerer or wizard, or I don't know, something interesting there. Sort of helped me there. But yeah, so I've been in the IT industry for quite a bit of time, and I've been having a lot of fun with PowerApps. I've been working with PowerApps for about 3 years now. And I'm a husband and father of 6, and
Wow.
I've lived in Orlando for quite some time now. I moved down here from Illinois, the Midwest, in 2006. So I've been here in Florida, Orlando, for quite a while, and
So we've actually got representation from the great USA and from the UK where I am. So
yeah,
other side of the pond, yeah. And
yeah,
hopefully we've got
absolutely,
some. I know we've got some members of the group from all over the world. So
yeah.
yeah, it's great to have
So
representation
I would
from
encourage
everywhere.
anybody that's viewing to, type in the comments say hello and maybe where they're from. That's always interesting to see where everybody's coming from. But absolutely, I know when we talked about setting up this podcast here tonight, we're talking about what time was it? It's 5 o'clock my time, so I've learned you're exactly 5 hours ahead of me,
Yeah.
so it's 10 p.m. there, right?
Yeah, so
When's your
I got the short
bedtime?
end. Yeah, I got the short end of the stick here. 10 p.m. God, and if I fall asleep, you know why, right? Oh,
And every
great.
once in a while, we could try, my lunch break sometime, so that would be, I guess, 5 p.m. your time.
Yeah,
But
and because there's people from all over, I suppose doing it at different time slots will help those who couldn't dial in maybe at this time. Gives
yeah,
them an opportunity to join at a different time. So yeah, certainly we'll break it up a little bit and try different time slots and see what works best for the group.
yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So you've been a developer your whole life, and I can relate to your story, right? Because I started off. I'm not a developer, by the way, other than my Power Apps. So it is possible for non-developers to get in there, and that's a whole citizen developer thing, isn't it? But I started off. I went to Technicon studying a computer degree, and it was just COBOL as well. This is showing
Oh,
my age now. COBOL and C++. And
oh, wow.
yeah, but back then I
Yep.
was a bit
You
of
got my respect there, C++. That's like a real man's
yeah.
language.
No, but I actually hated it, and I just ended up not going to college, and I dropped out and did something completely different. So
I don't blame you. Was it the pointers?
it's just you've got to have a certain mindset, don't you, to be a full-on hardcore full stack developer or
Yeah.
a proper developer. You've got to enjoy doing that stuff, and you got to love it because you sit in front of the computer 24/7. And for me, it was just too detailed. It was so much work to achieve little results. And that's why, because I'm quite a creative person, and that's what I love about PowerApps is you don't need to know all that detail on how to program to end up with a product.
So by the way, it looks like we've got somebody, Victor, from YouTube says, "Hi there, guys. Greetings from Valencia, Spain." Very
Hey
cool.
Victor, how's it going?
Yeah. And
And we've
then
got
we
someone
also,
from Netherlands.
yeah, we have looks like Pal in Evel. So I do apologize if I mispronounced that, but I had to go over there to Facebook and see who that was. But yeah, that's awesome.
Excellent.
Great to
So,
hear from. Yeah.
Darren, so how long have you actually been doing Power Apps? Yeah, when did you first get, when did you first open it and go, yeah, I'm going to develop something in here? What was your story there?
Been going on about 3 years now. Which I guess that's 2019. Um, Probably a ways before the whole lockdown.
Mm,
And so I was doing full stack development. I was doing C Sharp, ASP.NET, SQL Server, and then they were looking for me to pick up single page architecture using Angular. And man, I got to level with you guys. I do not like client side technologies. I learned HTML, I learned CSS. I wouldn't say I'm the best. I'm not really a front end developer. I can't really create beautiful looking external facing, great looking websites, but I knew how to read HTML, CSS, and do a little bit I could get by. But then the JavaScript, really hated JavaScript because everything just it's like the types for the variables were very loose, and weren't really well, it wasn't typed, and I've just always had a disdain more for the client side technologies. But when they were expecting me to pick up Angular and do most of my application logic on the client side in Angular, I was like, oh, it just like sucked all the joy out of me, man.
and when you say on the client side, you mean that does that like run in the browser and then the
Yeah.
application? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you have all these JavaScript frameworks. I guess jQuery was one of the big ones back, and I think that became popular around 2005 or so. And then from there on out, there's all these JavaScript frameworks that keep getting released. So you've got Vue, JS, you've got there's all kinds of them now. Angular is one of the big ones that's popular right now. And one of the things that really got to me was having to relearn a new JavaScript framework or a new language or a new something I got to tie into every 2 years. It seemed like,
Mm.
just with just doing .NET stuff. It seemed like I had to relearn stuff every 5 years or so. But with the front end technologies, those guys just seem to crank out just new libraries and frameworks just so much quicker. And I really wasn't interested in relearning things over and over and over again. So I really like the fact that I don't have to write HTML and CSS and JavaScript there in Power Apps. It's really refreshing.
Yeah. Oh, well, I've done a little bit of HTML in Power Apps and stuff. I wonder if you can actually insert other languages in there, but maybe that's a topic for another time. So,
Yeah.
um, are you full-time Power Apps now, or are you still
Mhm.
doing some of the other coding?
Yeah. So I have a full time job, and I do a little bit of stuff on the side, some freelancing stuff, on the weekends, and then I also do the YouTube stuff on the weekends. So I'm really packing it in sort of tight where I don't really have that much free time. And my wife makes me take some time off here and there, and so it's been a little bit of a challenge, and but I just sort of manage it, as things, take it one day at a time.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed since starting up Power Apps Academy and doing a few videos and some of the other work is you don't realize how much work all these YouTubers and all these guys that put all the content out there, how much work they actually do. So every time you go and watch one of the videos, it takes hours of preparation and all this sort of stuff, right? And I think people just
Yeah.
yeah, it is. We are doing it because we love it and we want to help people. But it's nice to get some appreciation, doesn't it? When you get likes on your video and people subscribing, it actually shows that people appreciate what you're doing. And it can be a little bit disheartening if people are watching it and they're not subscribed or they're not liking
Yeah.
your videos. So
Yeah,
guys, if you are
absolutely.
watching videos, do like them and subscribe. It
Yeah, I've
does
always
help.
heard people are mean on the internet, but I'm sort of blown away some of the kind things that everybody says to me on the channel. I'm sort of humbled and sort of like I tell people it's like, wow, that's a big deal to me. You saying what you just said, which is some people tell me I'm the best, which I'm like, no, I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not the best. Thank you, but no. but but they
Fantastic.
say things like that. I'm like, all right, you made my day. All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's just little things, isn't it? It's just
Yeah.
a little comment over here that really like goes, oh, people are appreciating the content that we're putting out, which is always appreciated.
Sometimes I feel like coming out of my office and like interacting with my wife. Hey, I'm a big deal now. Like,
Famous, yeah. Oh,
but
excellent.
yeah. So yeah, that it really sort of keeps me going and yeah, a lot of people are really positive and really nice.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah.
And how long do you think you need to be using Power Apps to be considered not a novice, but a sort of not an expert? What's in between novice and expert? Intermediate, sort of.
Like an intermediate,
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
moderate level. You know,
how long do you think it takes?
for me it was and I don't know if it had to do with my programming, my software development background, but I felt like somebody like really struggling with it, even as a software developer, because Power Apps is really different than a programming language. Um, it's got all that declarative type of stuff in there that you'd have to imperatively set with a programming language. But um, I went to struggling to all of a sudden, it's just like things just sort of clicked in my head. It's like, oh, and I think what it was as I was writing my first app, there is no menu control. And so I have a free PDF resource I put out there that I put out about a year ago. And what I was trying to do is I was trying to take all the things I struggled with for the first 6 months of learning Power Apps. And I'm like, man, if I knew all this stuff, it would have sort of catapulted me into creating apps and just got me, with my feet are hitting the ground running, And one of the things was there was no menu control, and my first app was just a one screen app, and then as my boss asked me, like, well, we need something else to happen in the app. I'm like, okay, I'll create a different screen for that, and I put a little button, and I put the button there, and you click on the button, it goes to the second screen, and then it sort of grew from there. And I'm like, okay, I don't want just random buttons all over the place. Then you go to that other screen, and it's like, okay, now I got to copy buttons over here that go to the other screens. And it was whenever I finally took the time to learn how to do a menu. That's where things really started to sort of click in place for me. And I wouldn't say that learning how to do menus would make everything click into place for everybody else, but maybe there's like some big thing that once you learn that one thing, it's like this one thing that was sort of holding you back, and once you learn it,
Mhm.
it's like things just like got a lot more easier. And then
Yeah,
from there on out, as you develop another screen, it's a lot of repetition.
yeah,
So you feel like there's tons and tons of stuff to learn, and there's so much things that you don't know. And but after you learn how to use a patch statement, that was a big like, oh wow, I love this so much more than using a form. It gives
yeah,
me a lot more control, and I can do a lot more cool stuff. It's things like that that's like, oh, I could use that over here and over here. Um,
yeah.
and so that's what it was. It was like a dramatic big effect once I picked up key things like the menu and the patch
Yeah.
statement.
Wait, when you were saying menu,
Mhm.
are you referring to maybe like setting a component on the side and that has some buttons and that component is reused on different screens? Because I
Mhm.
know there's you can either have a tabbed screen where they might put buttons which hide elements and unhide
Right.
elements. I find that myself a little bit confusing. I
Uh-huh.
prefer to use different screens. Anyway,
Oh
that's
yeah.
yeah. I prefer the tab thing. Might look cool in some scenarios, but when you start hiding things, having too much on one screen, it can get a bit, you can get a bit lost, can't you, with all these things?
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, if there's something like you have one screen that does one thing and does that one thing well, and if you
Yeah,
need to do something else, you try to put it on a different screen. But let's say that one screen edits customer data, and there's like so many fields. And people really do like tabs. So I try to implement tabs if there's too much stuff to fit on that one. But if you're editing something like orders or inventory, then I try to create a different screen. But yeah, menu something like on a typical. like a landscape oriented, not a mobile app, but a landscape. I always like to put the menu on the side, the left side, and then on mobile apps, I put the menu at the bottom, and then yeah, then tabs for stuff that just so many fields that you know to really
Yeah,
fit on without it.
yeah. Yeah, so I remember one of the key sort of things for me was every time at the beginning, every time I'd create a form, I'd always have a back-end data source, and then I'd have to like maybe a SharePoint list, and then I'd collect all the data within the form. But then you always, you had to format it exactly like they wanted you to format it. So now I prefer to have free text fields, and I just collect all of those into a collection or variables, and then I write those
Yeah,
back. Yeah, it's much easier. It gives you more flexibility, and yeah, and,
yeah,
and it's much quicker to do as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I see we've got some other comments on the list there. Data is king. Hello.
Yeah, Data's King. I know Data is. I'm trying to remember what his actual name is, but he actually has a YouTube channel. He does a lot of work, of course, in Power Apps, but he does a lot of stuff in Access as well. So I'm sort of losing what his first name was, but thanks for stopping by, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we also have Victor again. How many hours become a wizard then? Oh, let's see. Hmm.
How many spell books do you have to read, right? Oh,
It took me about 6 months to feel like I was anything close to a wizard. And then so what I try to do in my YouTube channel and that resource that I created for everybody is called the 10 things you must know about Power Apps before you write your first app. I try to condense that all down to, about an hour or two of reading or whatever. So I
how can
don't
we get
know.
that, Darren? Is that a free resource that you provide, or?
It is, yeah. That is on almost all of my videos. I have it. Unfortunately, I don't have it readily accessible. You know what? I'll put the link down below when I get maybe right after this. I'll put that down below, and
Yeah,
then
that'd be
I've got
useful.
a master class where I sort of go into a lot of this stuff more in depth. But yeah. But as far as how many hours, um, I don't know. I'd say maybe at least a month or two, right? Would you say that you're a wizard yet, Barry?
Definitely not.
Definitely
I've
not.
still got a long way to go. Yeah, some of the more complex things I look at, like some of the nested statements, I can get a little bit lost in them,
Uh-huh.
and I have to. Yeah, what I find is I have to focus a lot and trial and error until you get it worked out. And like I'll go to some of the forums, and I'll read through and some of the guys out there, they just like, oh yeah, try this, da, 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 and you're like, what the hell is that? Yeah, you have to really think about what they've just written. Yeah, so I feel like yeah, lots more practice with that more technically advanced the components. But then always I'm using some components in Power Apps, and then you look at the menus and oh, what's that AI and machine learning and this all this sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of functionality in there that just haven't used. The nice thing about listening to someone who's already done it is what are the key parts that you have to learn, and then you can give that to someone, and then they go, okay, cool, now I'm just going to make sure I understand these core principles, which will give them a good stepping stone into becoming a wizard quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. I found that that's how I learn a lot, and I would imagine a lot of people do that as well. They don't necessarily like, okay, I'm gonna crack open this book or this course. I'm like, no, I just want to put a button there, and I want that button to do this, or you've got a project, and it's like, okay, well, this is the main screen. Let's see if I can crank this out. So
Mm. And there is a huge amount of resource out there for learning, right? There's lots of guys doing YouTube channels, and I think there's also the forums, the Microsoft forums, and Facebook groups. So I think there's just because normally when I want information, I want it quickly because you're on the problem now and you want an answer now. I don't want to have to wait the next day or whatever. And I found you can go to different places and you can get the answer quickly, which is fantastic as well.
absolutely, yeah. So I'm looking at the other comments coming in. Data's King subscribed to your channel last week. Good content. It's compliment Darren's. Keep up with the good work. All right, very good. Yeah. So then we also have Pat's podcast. So I'm just starting to use Power Automate to export CSV files. Do you utilize I'm assuming he's talking
Power
about
Automate.
PowerApps. Oh,
Power
Power
Automate.
Automate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Barry, do you use Power Automate quite a bit? Like, what's your
Yeah.
ratio between PowerApps and Power Automate?
I do all my data collection at the moment. I do most of my data collection through PowerApps, and then I
Mhm.
do the actions with that data through Power Automate. So sending emails, writing back to SharePoint lists. I want to start looking at more advanced stuff. So I'm busy working on is starters and leavers forms, and I want to automate adding people to groups. And let's say there's a leaver, for instance, and they have to leave on this date in the future. I
Mhm.
want to assign that date to a list, and then I want Power Automate to keep checking that list. When that date comes up, it creates a job in a Microsoft Planner project, and then that job is there. So using Power Automate to do those sort of tasks. I also, for my hardware ordering app, I have a job that goes, well, the day after the order's been placed and that it's written into the SharePoint list, it looks
Mhm.
through there, and then it sends them a link to a form, Microsoft form with how do you rate using the app sort of thing, and then they fill that in. So it's not immediate, gives them a little bit of time to think about it, and then
Okay.
so, do all sorts of things. But yeah, I think there's, again, with Power Automate, there's so much that you can do. When you start looking at the more complex stuff, it can just basically, there's a huge amount. It's another sort of beast in itself to learn, similar to Power
Absolutely.
Apps. Yeah.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, and then you got Power BI, which seems to even be a bigger
Oh,
thing that's
yeah.
been around for even longer.
But it is as great because Power BI, because I don't know if you've got into because I'm a bit of I use SharePoint lists a lot. So I know there's much better repositories, but I'm a little bit of cheapskate. Don't have any premium connectors yet. But I find lists work well for what I want to use them for. I want to start looking into Dataverse and in how to use that in Teams. But for now, lists work well. And I don't know if you've seen on the list, you can actually visualize your list in Power BI. Now I've set up,
Hmm.
like, for when we order new hardware through our hardware ordering app,
Mhm.
it I produce a monthly report in Power BI on who the spend is, or what departments have spent what locations. So I could just present that to the management team and go,
Hmm.
this is how this is who's been ordering what. This is our total spend over the last month, and that works really well, right? So it's
Hmm.
and a few clicks of a button to get all of that. It is amazingly easy to a degree. I know, as with everything, it gets more complicated, and there is a query language in that, which I haven't done anything with. This is just basically point and click sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I know for me, I mean, most of my expertise is in Power Apps. So for me, my ratio is probably 98% Power Apps. And then if
Oh
I
wow.
just cannot find a way to do it within Power Apps, then I'll figure out how to do it in Power Automate. I've probably done maybe 10 or 20 flows. Um, and try to do everything in Power Apps. Now, if something needs to be kicked off in the middle of the night, I really can't trigger that from Power Apps. So you almost have to have it scheduled with a Power Automate flow. But eventually, I'd like to pick up and learn. Maybe if, have more ideas of what I could do in Power Automate. Maybe that Power Apps isn't best for. And then eventually, I wanted to get into Power BI and some of the
Mm.
other cool stuff they have out there as well. You got virtual assistants as well, and now
Oh
Power
yeah.
Pages. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, they've got the chatbot, don't they, where you can actually ask questions and get feedback from within the chatbot, and that's something I was looking at, but I haven't had the time to get into it just yet. So, do you ever use the approvals? I know they're pushing approvals quite heavily in Power Apps and within Teams. Do you
You
use
know,
any of the
I
approvals
took a
ways?
look. I took a look. If you're talking about the Power Automate approvals, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, yeah, I think it all backs on to Power Automate approvals. Yeah,
Yeah. So I took a look at that, and what I liked more than that was building everything into Power Apps and having, let's say, a dashboard. So somebody requests something, let's say requests a laptop. I need a new laptop. Then an email is, and I would right there inside of Power Apps shoot off an email using the Outlook or the Office
yeah,
365 Outlook connector to send the email. say, hey, this person has requested a laptop or whatever pertinent information in there, and then it links back to the app. And then that manager would, implement some type of deep linking where they could go directly into that record and they can see it. It's like, oh, well, this needs approval. They can either approve, deny, that type of thing, and just sort of manage that with all in the application.
All right.
And in the apps that I've done, the customers have really liked how I implemented it. And me personally, as the application developer, I like for my application to be pretty much the interface to all the users for
Mm.
that project, and not having to go to a Power Automate. They got these little
Mm.
cards over here, approve, deny, that type of thing. And I've just had a lot of good success doing that. But it's not to say that
Yeah.
somebody else isn't having great success using Power Automate.
Yeah. I mean, in a later one, it'd be good to actually see how you do that. I mean, I can demonstrate how I've done it in Power Automate, and running it back. It'd be good to see your version, just so we can
Yeah.
compare it. Yeah. And do you normally in your apps, do you have, because I sometimes find that I have admin functionality that only I want maybe IT to use, and then you want the end users to do that. Do you have separate apps for that, or do you have hidden buttons in your single app that does that kind of admin
So
function?
what I do, I don't know if I've we haven't talked terribly too much, but one of the things that I have is it's sort of like my little secret sauce. It's pretty much the secret to my success, which is um, I've identified common denominators in all the applications I write. If there's some new feature that I put into an application, I'm like, I could use this probably on every single application or 90% of them. Well, I'll put it into, I'll create my own template. I call it my Jumpstart Kit. And I have a whole playlist on my YouTube channel. So if people want to build, they can either buy mine and save themselves a lot of time, because it actually took me months to sort of amass all these little common denominators and features and stuff. But I have a whole playlist where I take them feature by feature, a video at a time. Like, hey, this is how you do a menu. This is how you do an application header. This is how. And one of those things that I teach people is having like some simple uh, role-based security. Okay,
Hmm.
so you're going to have most users using the application, and then you're going to have application administrators. Then there's going to be a special role for someone like you or me, because we're the developers. So I have a developer group, and then I've got a little tester group. And for the most part, it's just me as a developer that's in that tester group. But if there's an app admin that is trying to do something, or some users having some type of issue, um, and I can't recreate it on my screen, I'll add them to that little testers group, and they'll get this little icon at the top, and it's a toggle, and it'll make all these little things sort of pop up or become visible.
Just the wizardry coming out, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I actually had a user tell me once, a customer of mine, he said, "I feel like that's my superpower." I laughed. Because everybody at his organization, he's the one who contacted me and said, "Hey, can you write an app for our organization that does this?" I'm like, "Absolutely." So I wrote it for him, and I made him a part of one of the testers and a part of that group. And he got that little icon, and like everybody else is trying to do something. It's like, oh, on my screen, I've got the special button, my super. And so he brings up, he can see everything, see all the IDs of everything, and things are shifted around where he can see more stuff. But I always thought it was funny that he said he felt it was a superpower.
Fantastic. Wow. We've got a few comments coming in there. Is there anything you
Yeah.
want to
So
bring
let's see,
up?
where's the last one here? Okay, so I started diving into Power Automate with creating PDFs and see if. So whenever you deal with files, yeah, you almost have to do a Power Automate flow. That's a lot of times what I do use flows for. And then Pat says, so far I've just used it for simple reports, but it sounds like I need to dig into Power Automate. Okay.
Yeah.
And then by Sunnook. Hi, Brian here from the UK. Came
Hey,
back.
fellow UK person. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to bed, boys, late.
Back into Power Apps due to Darren's ticket course he's running. I feel the patch method has really opened up the options. Absolutely. Cool.
Good.
And then data is king. Sometimes miss creating workflows in SharePoint Designer. And I think that's like the old way of doing workflows, right? I think they discontinued that. Do you have much experience in SharePoint and workflows with the SharePoint designer?
Yeah, I think most of the people who are pros in Power Apps now have come from SharePoint, haven't they? So I
Yeah.
didn't. In fact, I yeah, I never really used SharePoint before I started using SharePoint online. I'd used it within places I'd worked, but I'd never administered it or anything. It's a bit of a beast. So yeah, I put it this way: I'm not a big fan of SharePoint for some
Yeah.
reason, but I like Power Apps.
Yeah.
Maybe I like because I've always heard horrible stories about SharePoint. I'm not sure what SharePoint design is like, but I can imagine it being a beast. You know, like the old ways of creating SharePoint pages before they upgraded to the modern view or whatever, and
Uh-huh.
it's just so cumbersome and stuff. I mean, like in terms of a wiki that we use, we use Confluence, and it's nice and easy to use. And when you go over to
Mhm.
SharePoint, you're like, oh god, this is a bit painful. But but
So when
what I've noticed, sorry, quickly, is a lot of the other app providers and platform as a service providers are bringing out this low code technology. I don't know if you've noticed, but Confluence has just brought out a low code platform over at Salesforce. Yeah, I think they're all realizing that they have to start building that automation layer on top of it. So it's definitely picking up, not just in Microsoft. Obviously, they market leaders, but
Mhm.
others are following trend definitely.
Yeah. When I got into Power Apps, I'm like, "Oh, where can I write my data to?" Like, and there's all these examples using SharePoint, and I was familiar with SharePoint, but I'm like, it just seemed like there should be a database system for Power Apps. Of course, we all know that to be Dataverse. Of course, you need a premium license for it and stuff. And I'm used to using SQL Server, and I could tie it in SQL Server, but the state agency that I was working at, the state of Florida, they didn't want to buy the premium license. So I'm like, okay, so I can't use SQL Server, I can't use the Dataverse. What's the best thing? It can't be SharePoint. I don't want to be using Excel spreadsheets. That didn't sound right. But it turned out to be
This,
SharePoint is the best option when you don't have a
yeah.
premium license, right?
Yeah. And just a question, because I've always thought, I know the premium licenses are expensive because I always wanted to have a connector back into Jira because we use a lot of Jira for ticketing and stuff. It'd be nice if we could integrate directly into the right fields. But obviously, you have to pay a lot of money for that, which I don't want to do yet. But what about creating your own connector with APIs? Is that something that you've ever thought of doing so that you don't have to pay for the premium license?
I definitely know you can do that. It's nothing that I've really sort of given serious thought. Especially being a developer. So yeah, I haven't really given much thought to that, but it's definitely a possibility. Yeah.
Mm. I wonder how much effort. It'd be good to know from someone who's actually done that. How they achieved it. Maybe someone knows someone. Get them to get in touch with us.
Yeah. Well, I do know that. I mean, a lot of times, if you're not, as far as in database sources, you've got MySQL, which is very popular. So there is a connector. I think that's a premium connector as well. And you have, I've heard it pronounced as Postgres.
Postgre,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. And of course, I've always read it, it doesn't look like Postgres, but is
Yeah.
that how you pronounce it?
Well, it's
Postgres?
Postgre SQL. I think they
Okay.
call it. It's PORSTGRE SQL.
Yeah.
I
I've
think.
heard that that's it's like the open source version of like a big database system like
Yeah,
Oracle or SQL
yeah,
Server, right?
yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it's quite
yeah,
popular. Yeah, but is that a premium connector to that as well?
I believe so, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
It's like you can have SharePoint lists. That's all.
Yeah. To
You
SharePoint.
want anything else, you have to pay like double.
And of course, the big pain in the butt with SharePoint is like they have to have direct access to add and edit data in the SharePoint list. Well, users, they like to go into SharePoint sites. So, I'll just bring this up and edit it.
Yeah,
And you almost need to lock that stuff down so people are discouraged from
yeah.
doing that.
Well,
That's what scares
I
me as
think
a developer.
that's another topic is how to secure SharePoint lists because
Yeah.
I think it's easy just to go, oh, actually, everyone will be using the application and everyone needs read write access to the SharePoint list. So I think there's a way where you can use service accounts, and only the service account can write to the SharePoint list. And I've come up into issues with that because when I write to the SharePoint list and then I want to send a flow, it uses the service account to send a flow, and when that goes to the ticketing system, the user doesn't get the reference number because it's the service account sending the email and it replies to so there's those sort of gotchas that you have to have these workarounds. And that's mainly why I send most of the communications directly from PowerApps, and then I also write it back to the SharePoint list, just so it's the user sending the emails.
Yeah. So we do have some more comments here. Let's see here. Okay, Billy, Power Automate approvals has come a long way now. Has a beautiful home for approvals within Teams, and actionable emails can save vast amounts of time. Okay, very good. Good to know.
Yeah. I mean, Teams has come a long way. I mean, they put a lot of effort into development. We use Teams quite heavily, and I've actually created what I call digital launch pad within Teams that I can launch all my digital apps from, because really what I want is just a single place where users can go. Everyone uses Teams. If there's a in the left hand menu bar, they launch the digital launch pad, and they've got all the links to all the apps in there. And that's easy, just one place for them to go. But yeah, Teams, it seems like they come in. I think you get a free Dataverse license for up to a certain level. So, and you can actually develop Power Apps from within Teams. I haven't actually seen too much of it. I think I opened it once, but there is a plugin within Teams to develop Power Apps.
You know, I've tried the Power Apps inside of Teams once, and there were some subtle things that were really different that really turned me off. Doesn't mean that it wouldn't be something great for somebody else. I'm like, oh man, I just missed the native Power Apps environment, But have you ever messed with that at all? Actually creating an app inside of Teams for Power Apps?
No, I haven't. Maybe I should try. I suppose the appealing part of that is having Dataverse. I don't know how much you get of it, but I know some of the frustrations of SharePoint lists is you got the limits and rows and the delegation issues and all this sort of stuff. So
yeah,
it's worth checking out. I'll have to check it out soon. We can do it and report back.
Yeah. And then we have Victor, your famous var show debug 3 printing guy. So he's talking about my little feature in my application template. Using it daily, thanks to you. So that's little superpower that somebody called it. Along with your little little squares, top-notch secrets at work, learning lots. Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate that. Yeah. And then we have Hans from Guatemala.
Guatemala. Wow, welcome.
Yeah.
That's some way. That's out there in South America, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, I need to create an app that contains details, some examples. Easy, thank you.
Contains details. Need
So,
more info.
yeah, I would say, Hans, if you're looking for some good examples, you might want to check out the templates that come with Power Apps. What I might do is just so that let me see if I can pull up an example really quick here. Let me share my screen. There we go. So if you're inside of Power Apps, if you click on this little link here, more create options. Okay, so I'm in the home. And so if you're brand new and you want to see some examples, so here are some good sample applications you can take a look at. I have 2 sample applications, 2 separate videos on my channel. One's an inspection checklist app, if you do a search on my channel for that. Also, I have a little report mobile app that's a sample app. But you got quite a few apps as samples. So Barry, have you messed around with any of these templates before?
I have. Some of them can be a little bit confusing for starters, I think. But it also, if you go to PowerAppify.com, I've got 2 free templates on there. One is like a data collection template, and another is that digital launchpad. And you can download those, install them. The digital launchpad is really easy if you're new.
What's the URL?
PowerAppify.com. Yeah, it's a new website. Right? I've just set it up. PowerAppify.com. Yeah.
All right. Is this it?
No. Try HTTPS. Maybe that's it.
Power
Appify. Yeah,
appify.com, right?
yeah.
If you have the link, if you paste it, I can.
Let me just have a look quickly.
Yeah. And your
Yeah, works for me.
website is what is the URL to your other main site where you said you've got a template and some other things up there for people to look at?
PowerAppify.com. That's it.
Okay, that is it. Okay.
Hold on, let me just put it down here. I put it in our private chat there. See if you can.
All right.
Yeah, I haven't got much on there. It's a website I've just launched recently. So
Yeah, let's check it out here. Okay. So you're saying what all is here that
so
you
if
were
you go
talking about?
down, yeah. If you go down, yeah, you've got that new software or cloud service request app. So that's basically an app if someone wants to, let's say, in your business, capture some details. Like I want to, so let's say I've got normal Office installed, and I'm a business user, and I want to request a new cloud service, maybe Office 365. Then I can go in there. This form collects all the data that we'd need as a business, and then it submits it.
So the one that you're talking about is this first one here that I'm hovering over.
Yeah.
Okay, let me click on that one there so people can see what you're talking about. So you've got a description here. Okay.
Yeah.
And
And
so what
so
would you say that?
basically, if you download that, and it comes with full instructions on how to install it, but then you can actually, you might not have to use it, but you can just have a look at how it's configured, and you can have a
Okay.
look at all the code samples that are in there, and you can reuse that. And there's the other digital launchpad one. If you just go back,
Yeah. So guys, that's free. All right.
that's free, and the other one's free. The digital launchpad, which is I explained earlier, that sits in Teams, and
All
then
right.
that, that's got all the links to all the applications that we have, and also the drop down menus takes you to other links in there. So that's a really easy one just to
So
install.
when you download this, is this the MS app file or is it the zip like a solution?
It's a zip, and you just go import new template, and you click on it, and away you go.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
good.
And
What?
actually, the one I've just uploaded is the if you go back, that the IT ordering app. So that
Uh-huh.
one, that one's
I'm
590.
look I'm looking at
Seen
your
us?
color. I'm looking at your color theme. So all the blue ones are downloads, and all
Yeah,
the what teal and those are like services, right? Is that
yeah,
like the
yeah.
color
That's
theme you're going with?
Yeah, so yeah, if you need an expert for an hour or whatever to help you install a template or help you get over a problem, then you can use that. But the templates come with full documentation and whatever, and you can just install it and customize it for your business and start using it. I mean, it's $5.99. I'm not going for high cost. I just want to get it out there. The
Yeah.
IT hardware ordering app actually took a hell of a long time to develop. So you get all of that, and you can learn how I put it together and how everything works. You can install all the Power Automate flows and stuff that come with that. So
Okay.
that's really useful for learning. If you want to power learn, get a jump start, you can use that.
Well, yeah, if you're working for an employer that needs something like this,
Yeah,
$6. I've spent a lot more for stuff like my boss needs something and I need to do a presentation, either need an icon or I need a jump start on something. I'd gladly pay
yeah,
money to sort of get a jump start on this. So so this handles like if you want to order hardware equipment like within IT,
yeah.
is
Well,
that
you can do it to anything. So basically, there's a SharePoint list at the back, which is the catalog. If you go back to the ordering screen,
okay? So
uh,
go back one.
go back to one of the screens that has the shopping basket on it. So at the back end of that, there's a SharePoint list that has
Mhm.
every. You could just fill it up with whatever you want. So you can have a category, projectors or tables or whatever you want, lampshades. You can. It doesn't have to be IT equipment. It can be anything you want. You just
Okay, so
modify the back end list. Yeah.
this sounds a lot like the ticketing system I've been building out with my students here. So if they go in and create a new ticket, it doesn't have to be for IT. They could go in. Let's see if I pull one up here. It could be for human resources. So if I had, if I wanted to complain about my boss, I would create a human resources ticket. Doesn't have to be. So it sounds like you made it flexible enough that it can handle all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to modify the front end, like the labeling and stuff, just to reflect what it is that you want to purchase in
Yeah.
have in your store. But yeah, so it's simple.
All right. Very
Yeah, I
good.
mean that's the admin screen, by the way, because yeah, after what we found is after you place an order
Hmm.
for an item, so in the catalog it has like he has a laptop. It costs £1,500 or whatever, but it's like there's a Dell laptop, but in like we've got offices all around, and if it's someone for a different country, maybe a different model. So in here you can come in and put your purchase order number that is generated within the app, and then you can put the actual model, the actual cost, because when I said we report in Power BI, you want the actuals, not the actual estimated cost, to say how much. So this is for the asset manager or whoever ordered the device to come in, update the order of what it actually was when you purchased it, and then it updates back to the SharePoint list to say, for this order, this is the actual price, rather than this is what we estimated the price to be.
Okay. So how long did it take you to write this application? You still there? I think I lost audio. Still there?
Can you hear me?
Now I can. Yeah.
Hold on 1 second. I've had a breakdown. Just 1 second.
Yeah. No worries.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, my headphone just died, so I've come back
Okay.
using computer microphone. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I was just asking you how long it took you to write a system like that.
Well, it took me on and off, probably about a year, but it was on and off because I as I said, I'm not a full-time Power App developer.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was. I had something up and running quite quickly, but obviously perfecting it and getting all the details in there took a bit of time.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. So we do have some more comments here. Okay, let's see here. Okay, we already went through that. Yeah. So Hans, so there's some examples right there. And then data is king. I've noticed some limitations with Power Apps in Teams, such as no drop-down control. Really? Wow, that sounds like a pretty big limitation. I think one of the things I remember is I was in a Power Apps project within Teams, and I was hitting the file pull down menu or something where I was like wanting to get to like a different menu that I'm used to seeing, and it would just pop me out of the app completely. I'm like, after about the second time of doing that, I'm like, okay, I'm done with that. Okay. Also, I don't think you can bring in existing data into Dataverse from Power Apps and Teams. That's interesting.
All right. Well, does that mean you can't import data into? So you have to. Is it only you can only capture new data? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that would be good to get a clarification on.
Yeah, I mean, how do you, just as a maybe a closing question, Darren? What advice do you have for users just to keep motivated on their Power Apps journey? I mean, how have you kept motivated to carry on learning?
I would say have something defined in your mind, which is the very next step. So that could be the next screen, the next feature, or the bug that you're dealing with, just getting past that, rather than trying to tackle 5 or a dozen different things that that are out there that you need to get done for your project. Is how I've sort of learned that over my career is not to get overwhelmed with many things. You sort of put those things on the shelf, at least for a moment, and focus at least on one thing. And if you get stuck on something, put that on the shelf and pull something down, something you can tackle, make some progress on. And, it might be some small wins and sort of get your morale up a little bit, and then tackle more of the harder things,
Yeah. I mean, my advice would just be keep at it, right? Keep going, and keep an eye out in the business that you're in, just to listen for problems. And then you think, well, how can I solve that problem using this? There's a lot of manual processes out there which people do, which there's a big drive for efficiencies within business, right? They don't want to be relying on manual processes, and they don't want to have to wait for development teams to have to develop things. And once you become once you get to a level of proficiency with PowerApps, you can start solving those problems, and then also evangelizing what it can do to other teams and start pointing them in the right direction, get them on the journey, and then you sort of spearhead that, and suddenly you get other people in the business who are going, oh, this is wasting our time. How can we fix this? And once they are on board, then then that sort of spreads a bit. But and also, as a final note from me, don't go too long without practicing, because I actually started, and maybe why some of the apps took a long time is because I actually went for a long period where I got caught up doing something else, where I actually didn't do PowerApps for ages, and then I had to come back and relearn everything, right? So you don't want to be having to relearn and refresh all the time. Just even if you do a little bit every week, I think just keep at it and just keep doing it.
It's true. And something I would add to that, you talking about like if you get to know more about the business that you're serving, you might think of like, how could I automate or help that? One of the things that I've noticed is a lot of times people in business or in the field, they've got this huge whiteboard somewhere. They're managing data and they need to collaborate with it. And so it could be a matter of scheduling doctors, in an emergency room, hospital, or all kinds of stuff. I even saw it working for Department of Transportation, where they'd have whiteboards all the way down for all these projects that were going on. And for them to think, oh, well, we could have a programmer create an application that would manage all this stuff, they might think, oh, well, IT always tells us no. Or, oh, they quoted us hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this. But now with the Power Platform, you could come in and say, hey, look, just in this afternoon, I created something that would duplicate your little whiteboard out here. And they're like, what? You start to feel like a wizard,
You can be a wizard. That's it. Just in one afternoon, PowerApps. Right? Oh, fantastic. Oh, it's been a great session, Darren. Thanks for that. And I think we try and do these frequently. And if you guys out there want us to discuss any topics in particular that you want to learn more about, and we can maybe do some deep dives. I know Darren loves presenting and showing us how things are done, so we'll be more than happy to dive in there and challenge his technical skills anytime.
Yeah, very good. And I guess one last thing I wanted to put in here, Data's King got back to us. He said only new data. So just in case somebody heard that, like, what? They wanted to know, he did get back to us there. So his previous comment was, I don't think you can bring in existing data into Dataverse from PowerApps and Teams.
Right,
only
okay.
New data. So that sounds like a pretty big limitation. Thought I'd get that in. But thanks for having me. And we'd love to hear more from you in the comments. So if you guys, see this video later on, and if you guys liked it, want to see us do more of these, let us know. And any other parting words?
No, that's it. It was good. As I said, this is my first ever live stream, so I can't believe the hour went by so quickly.
I know, it does go by quick, doesn't it?
I was getting really nervous beforehand. I was thinking, oh my god, how's it going to go? But I think once you're there and you're just chatting, it's a lot easier than you think it's going to be in your head. So
absolutely, and people commenting and stuff sort of keeps things moving along. It's really great when people participate. Yeah, good. Very good. All right. Well, thanks a lot, and thanks everybody for stopping by and interacting with us.
Yeah, thanks guys. Really appreciate you jumping on.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Speak to you soon. Cheers, guys. Bye.